Continuing our exploration of the Palladium book's futuristic world setting of Rifts Earths, you can catch up with the previous videos covering the Palladium book's Megaverse on the Megaverse playlist on my channel. Following on from our survey of the invasive extra-dimensional insectoids, the Xiticix, the primary obstacle to their complete domination of Earth is located nearby in a thin band of territory, mainly located in North America, one of the main bastions of humanity, known as the Coalition States. Today, we're going to cover some of the history of the formation and geography of the Coalition, their military organization, politics, culture, and a little bit about why the Coalition makes for such an interesting faction on Rifts Earth. So grab yourself a tasty beverage, get comfortable. It's time to get deeply nerdy. The Coalition States is a genocidal human supremacist power of North America in the dystopian post-apocalyptic future of Palladium's Rifts Roleplaying Game. The year is somewhere around 2391, though most surviving humans of North America will tell you it's around 105 post-apocalypse PA, after a worldwide cosmic and supernatural great cataclysm that occurred in 2098 AD, which saw magical energy return to the Earth at maximum level all of a sudden, supercharging ley lines, tearing open uncontrolled interdimensional rifts, and causing massive devastation due to natural disasters and waves of supernatural invaders, which assaulted the struggling remnants of a severely traumatized human population. Originally, the Coalition States was a loose alliance of 5 industrialized states which emerged out of the ashes of the United States and Canada. The main drive was, and has always been, the bastions of still operational military hardware manufacturing and intact communications. This was driven by one of the few remaining fortified arcology megacity sites, called Chi-Town, which dominates old Illinois and Iowa, creating an area which has been completely human-controlled without any major incursions of dimensional beings, known as DBs, for the last 60 years at least. Raw materials constantly flow into this region, and massive manufacturing facilities crank out a constant supply of high-tech equipment to supply humanity with the war machines vitally important in their defense and the intended goal of retaking their world back from alien invaders. From Chi-Town, as the cataclysm and resulting chaos began to stabilize somewhat, contact spread to other pockets of resistance, and the first member state, nearby Ontario's southern half, joined the Chi-Town as the new territory called Ironheart, which had become a feudal monarchy by that stage. So the leaders of that region have dual titles, one being their administrative rank in the Coalition and their royal rank in the Ironheart monarchy. One of the primary assets of Ironheart is an arms manufacturing complex at New Kenora, and the Ontario territory is the main source of uranium, iron, coal, and timber for the Imperium of Humanity, maintained via vital shipping routes across the Great Lakes. Control of the shipping lanes was the primary driver behind the Coalition's alliance with the Free State of Quebec, which maintains a lot more independence from the rest of the Coalition as a result of its critical tactical position. The Coalition States considers Ironheart to be its northern border, and aside from the ever-growing threat of the Xiticix insectoid invaders, they face a serious enemy in the form of the monster kingdom of Calgary. Anyone dealing with the Coalition States will know that, along with their high-technology hardware, they also employ genetic technology and have a large population of artificially created intelligent humanoid canines, known as dog boys, who serve, along with registered human psychics, as a second-class citizenry and frontline specialist military force well-suited to fighting supernatural threats. Which brings us to the Lone Star. Lone Star is the second most important state in the Coalition after Chi-Town itself. The Lone Star Research Complex contains the genetic development and testing laboratories that provide the Coalition with its mutant canines, along with an extensive manufacturing capacity beyond this. And the North Texas oil fields are one of the prime sources of petrochemicals for the entire Coalition states. Lone Star's alliance allowed the Coalition to bring Arkansas under control and push operations all the way down south to the Gulf of Mexico, establishing a second major control point in the state, and brought some stability to the entire coast from former Brownsville to the Mississippi River. However, there are still issues with a faction called the Pecos Empire along the Rio Grande and Brazos rivers. Though these are really just a pack of loosely allied bandit tribes and warlords holding out from the time of chaos. There are exceptions. The Kingdom of Los Alamo, which controls the territory immediately surrounding Old Austin, is technologically on par with the Coalition States and would have been approached for inclusion, but the kingdom has embraced the use of alien technology, which the Coalition simply cannot tolerate. But currently, there are bigger threats to the rest of the Coalition, and Los Alamo can wait. The Coalition's main bastion in the region is their naval power, with a navy base established in Fort Pinnacle. Despite its ideological contention with the human population of the Pecos Empire, Los Alamos, and the free trade city of Houston in the ruins of old Houston, Texas, the Coalition would commit serious military assets to defend the region from any major alien invasion or threat. But you can be sure the non-humans in the region would have to fend for themselves, and watch out for a lot of unfortunate collateral damage incidents. The other main Coalition base is Puerta Victoria, located at the confluence of Guadalupe River and the Gulf of Mexico. This is a major airport which links with the naval power in the Gulf of Mexico and was where most intelligence is gathered on the Pecos Empire activity and the looming threat of actual vampire kingdoms all over the southern states. Vampire kingdoms are one of the coolest aspects of Rifts Earth and have one of the best source books available in my opinion. I would say that's one of the must-buy resource books for the setting. It's well laid out, a very fresh take on vampires, and just a highly entertaining read. Plus, if you've not taken on a horde of bloodsuckers with a wood chip firing railgun and a high-powered super soaker, have you even Rifts? The only major city in Missouri is New Chillicothe, though there are several military bases along the Mississippi River and a very large military presence containing the Great St. Louis Rift, a permanent open rift in the old St. Louis Gateway Arch. Mostly Missouri has a patchwork of settlements where landed families accept refugees that always wander in from the wilds and work as second-class citizens as members of the community in the old feudal style. St. Louis, very much like the dark ruins of old Chicago, is kind of a training ground for Coalition soldiers to cut their teeth on fighting the supernatural, where theory and veterans' scary stories turn into cold, traumatic reality and a recruit becomes a soldier. A lot of the excess population is sent off to Missouri as the lands are a main food production territory, and so a lot of outpost settlements are a bit like advanced fire bases with families living among the very vigilant armed forces stationed there. Not many of these settlements last the distance, however. Northern Missouri is the Leavenwood live training territory and home to the 3rd Security Forces Division, known as the Death's Head Division, composed of 3 full regiments, lots of brigades, heaps of high-tech hardware and auxiliary specialists. So if you need squads of dogboy mutant canine packs led by Psy-Stalker mutant predatory psychic humans, commanders or elite sniper ranger specialists, or rumbling squads of 4 high-tech tanks smashing down trees with support vehicles rolling in on massive tires like mobile military bases with medical support and fresh supplies for your players, or even a flyby by some Samus power armor raining railgun fire as they scream out of the blue sky, just a squawk on the radio that summons a glossy black armored angel of death from above. There is even a full brigade of condemned Coalition criminals pressed into military service, with lieutenants ready to put a bullet between the eyes of any trooper who fails to comply with orders, Warhammer 40k style. From a role-playing point of view, squads are what most players will deal with the larger operations of the Coalition military being the background goings-on. The orders come in, the squad gets to work, no questions asked. The Game Master always has the option to bring in support to get player characters out of dire situations if need be without breaking from the player's immersion. It's just the way things work in the Coalition states. In general, the Game Master can bring in squads of 4 tanks or 2 major battle tanks. Power armor units such as Samus are available at the rate that they can be manufactured and trained pilots permit. Attrition is very high as they see a lot of frontline action away from further support such as artillery. Other Coalition territories include the manufacturing facilities in El Dorado, along with a lot of oil and gas fields. There is also Fort Jerico, which used to be the city of Newtown and Pine Bluff, home of a massive storage facility for ancient chemical weapons, and the Greensville Coalition Navy base that operates on the Mississippi River. A hard-fought campaign that liberated Little Rock, and a Navy base is being built to dominate the Arkansas River. Other notable locations include the free city of Whykin, now known as the 6th Coalition state, with control over southern Missouri and Oklahoma. This is a main Coalition soldier recruiting territory with a very high degree of prejudice against any alien visitors to Rift Earth, even going so far as to enforce indentured servitude and slavery on DBs. Effective as of Foundation Day, 1st of January 110 PA, the Coalition government organised a number of territories which are considered to be purely military areas of authority with no civil government. These are, in most cases, active combat zones. The goal with the territories is to pacify, then settle them with the intended goal of eventual statehood and membership in the Coalition. I won't go into the details about the war between the Coalition, the City of Tolkeen, and the Federation of Magic. It's enough to say that magic is strictly forbidden in Coalition society and outlawed in all Coalition territories. Coalition citizenship is hereditary. Citizens are issued with holographic identification cards, usually upon reaching adulthood, which have all of their information on them and also serves as their primary currency exchange. However, it can and typically is removed as punishment for severe crimes, along with exile to the labour service. All citizens are nominally required to perform 2 years of military service upon their 17th birthday. Non-citizen humans may apply for citizenship, but it can take years to process, so enlisting in the military is a better option in that regard. It's basically a lot like the movie Starship Troopers. The government are fascists, their military is the only thing keeping them in power and humanity alive. But the attrition is very real, so the official policy is to offer citizenship to any Earthborn human who enlists for a minimum term of 5 years of military service, the minimum amount of time it takes before a soldier can advance to the rank of corporal. The longer you serve, the more benefits you and your family receive as citizens. For humans not born on Earth, the duration of all service requirements is doubled. It's generally accepted that humans not born on Earth face certain death in the military, but at least they get food, shelter, and weapons, and some training. In addition to the HoloIDs, Major and Master Psychics and mutant animals commissioned officers of the Coalition military, most officials, recipients of authorized bionic augmentation, and members of the Labour Service and convicted criminals are implanted with identification coding, or IC chips. IC chips allow easy identification, though each category has a different chip type. Officers, officials, and bionic recipients are given so-called green chips, entitling them to much greater freedom of movement within Coalition cities. Psychics and mutant animals are given yellow chips for monitoring, and labourers and criminals receive red chips, subject to close scrutiny, inspection, and death if they step outside of very narrowly defined parameters. Canines walk on 2 legs and talk in the Coalition. These dog soldiers are created by Lone Star laboratory facilities, kind of like Geonosis, and citizens are quite used to them, usually quite fond of them really, and the dog boys love to serve the Coalition for the most part. Psychic powers do not face the same xenophobic fear as magic power, and citizens are divided into minor, major, and master psychics if they register psionic ability. The vast majority don't, and the minor psychics are mostly considered to be harmless, so the authorities don't bother with them much. This seems like a good point to pause our studies for now. I have a viewer request to talk about psionics in much more detail in my next video. Until then, as always, my name is AJ Pickett. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.